Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Ripple's a smart company. They know, just like we do, there's a problem in the banking system, the legacy banking system. And while Ripple is involved in this takeover, that's what it is. In my humble opinion, that's what's happening with the new financial system. I think everyone can see it right now if you're looking at the actual evidence, not opinion, evidence. There's a DLT takeover, all right? Now, while they're doing that, they also don't want to dip their feet into the problems, into the pool, the waters of the problems of the regular banks, the legacy system. They don't want those problems. So what does Ripple do today? You thought that was normal? You thought that was a normal? They just came out and they're just talking about this alternative style of the Fed account. You think that that's not really related to everything we've been covering in the last few videos and in the members only section? Did you see the document I posted last night? You saw that? Of course it's related. You see, all research teams, in my humble opinion, if they're worth what they're getting paid, we're sort of all on the same trajectory. We're on the same pathway of information. I think it's inevitable that you arrive at all of these different problems within the banking system. It's not something you can just get around easily. Ripple knows that. That's why they said this. You're like, Nick, what are you talking about? Hold on. Calmate, tranqui. Hold on. Let me build. I'm going somewhere with this. This article right here. What's this article on Yahoo Finance? This article is titled, Ripple says, quote, skinny Fed. What kind of Fed? We've been talking about Fed accounts. What kind of Fed account is that? Skinny Fed master account is attractive. Really, Ripple? Despite its limitations. Wait, are you biting the bait? Oh, there's limitations. Is this an inferior account? Are you biting the bait? Don't bite you should know. I know you're not biting the bait. I know, because you're smart. I know that. The people here on this channel, they're some of the wisest people. Period. I know it for a fact. I've heard from a lot of you. That's how I know. I'm not just talking. Because I don't give, if you know me, I don't give compliments easily. I don't. They're earned. So, of course, this is a swerve, a plot twist, right? Whatever you want to call it. Limitations is not a negative thing. I'm about to expose the truth of why they brought this up. They have to address this. First of all, they want people looking that way while they're going this way. Secondly, they don't want people to know about the problems in the banking system they're about to dominate. The banks don't want it known because then the people would really flee with their deposit. You know, deposit flight. They flee to something like gold or something more attractive. Even the banks themselves have been fleeing from the Fed. You're like, fleeing from the Fed? Well, if you take your capital, you're not keeping it with the Fed because the Fed is not paying you as much yield on that capital. Hence, the reserves are going dry. Oh, you didn't? Did you watch the members only video? Did you read the documents I've been posting? Oh, it will open your peepers. You know those things you use every day, but a lot of people take for granted? Those peepers. Jeepers creepers, get over to that members only section and use those peepers. Now, in my humble opinion, you don't have to. I'm just saying if you want that information. A skinny Fed account. Oh, yeah, we're building. Look at this, folks. So let's read this I'll read this little tidbit to you, okay? And then we're going to really rip the veil off of this. I'm going to give you the absolute truth that you can research yourself, and you should. Never take someone's word for anything anymore. No, we're not doing that. We're evolving, advancing, whatever you want to say, to a place where we know for ourselves. We see for ourselves, and nobody can shake us because we know. You make up your own mind. You're sovereign now. You always have been. Now let's go here. Crypto giant Ripple supports the idea. The idea? Well, who put the idea out there? Okay, well, let's keep going. Supports the idea of a, quote, skinny Federal Reserve payments account for non-banks. People that don't know will say, oh, that's a limited account. Oh, man, this must be worse. No, it's not. No, it's not. In fact, it's exactly what you want if you're an XRP holder. Can they do great with a regular account? Sure, but with a skinny account, ooh, we're going to tell. Yeah. Which could still be a game. See, look, the negativity already. Yahoo bit the bait. Shame on you. If you're not a researcher, I'm sorry. Let me go off this one time, folks. Just one time. Permit old Alphanine to go off. Get out the way, Al Yahoo. If you're not going to do your research, look at the negative energy on that, which could still be a game changer, still, as though there's a negative. No, it is a game changer. You want this. You can take it the other way, but you want this. Why? You know what? I don't even want to wait anymore. No more delays. Let's just rip the veil off because that just really peeved me. So a skinny Fed account insulates Ripple and other bank coin companies from a lot of the different negatives that might take down the banks. And it insulates them from what? Contagion. Isn't that what the ECB, European Central Bank, and Christine Lagarde been screaming about? Contagion, all the different documents we've been reading, all these problems with the Fed's reserves going low. And like I said, if you need to see that post I made yesterday, there's 2 or 3 of them. Read every single one of them. I am not joking. I'm being very serious. You need to see it. Because life in the future may be about to change. I'm not being hyperbolic whatsoever. Read it for yourself. All of that lends to a domino effect happening. Contagion, domino effect, whatever word they want. These banks are in trouble. A skinny Fed account protects Ripple and DLT companies from the contagion. So they continue to thrive while the banking system continues to be on fire. That's what it does. That's why they're entertaining this. And they're like, oh, yeah, we'll go for a skinny account. Sure. They're just not going to come out and tell you what I'm going to tell you. But I work for you. I don't work for them. Look it up for yourself. But look at this. So a skinny quote is coming from Fidelity. All right. Fidelity quote, but you can get it from a myriad of sources. You can look this up yourself. I want you to. Quote, skinny Fed master account is to facilitate direct access to the Federal Reserve's payment system. And in doing so, it insulates what it does. What it insulates companies like Ripple from several key problems currently existing within the traditional correspondent banking system. Let me go off. They have the connections, not only for the collection. Now we need to add a new phrase. They have the connections for the protection. The Fed knows. The Fed wants to benefit from Ripple. Why? You think the Fed is stupid? You think the Fed sees that these new NBFIs, these new non-banking financial institution DLT technology companies, they are the way of the future. They have access to capital and value that's going to flow brilliantly, and the Fed wants that. Why? The Fed systems have failed. We saw it. We heard the experts. On this channel, the videos are still up as proof. We heard the experts declare that the Fed systems, their little DLT system they thought was so brilliant, but it didn't work out. They failed. If they can bring in Ripple, not only will they share in that value, one day it's going to expand. Because one day things will go past all of these different problems. Those problems will be remedied. Hence the institution of the new financial system. These problems will be remedied. And then these accounts can expand. And a lot of that stuff, if they connect to Fed systems, Ripple, Chainlink, Solana, Coinbase, etc., then the Fed will have some value flowing through them, replacing the value that the traditional banks who have betrayed. Do you think the Fed doesn't think like that? Betrayed the Fed by pulling their value out of the reserves and holding them elsewhere to get more yield. Hence, that hurt the Fed. You don't peep that? You don't see that? It hurt the Fed. It hurt their careers because people are looking at the Fed like, what's going on? Once again, look at those posts from last night. People, they've got everybody. You don't think so? Ask your analysts, ask your researchers that are connected. Ask them if they're being honest with you. You're paying them. This is not financial advice. I'm just a humble researcher on YouTube. But the ones you're connected to, you pay for. Ask them if they're being honest. They're going to tell you everybody's looking at the Fed, making phone calls of what's going on. And the Fed is pissed off. I can tell you, I don't have any connection. I'm not beholden to anyone. And so the Fed is taking offense to that. How dare you hurt me? You hurt our career. People want promotions. They want to do more within the Fed. There are people in there. Well, okay, we see what you're doing, right? So they're left to shoulder the blame. You see how all the major media outlets lately have been going head on at the Fed. You ever seen that before? I mean, they've been really excoriating them, castigating them, if I can use those words, if those words are being used properly. The Fed is like, okay, you know what? Let's play that game. We're going to bring in these DLT companies. We're going to insulate them from the same problems you're suffering. Yeah, you want to do that to me? The Fed, I'm speaking as like I'm the Fed. You want to do that to me? Watch this. You had a problem with them, didn't you? Come here, Ripple. Let me help you out. Come on here. Maybe we'll do this account. Maybe. Let's put it out there. Because they know putting it out there, putting this idea out there. Ripple and the Fed are like this. You know how many former government employees does Ripple employ? Oh, wait. Right. They have the connections for the protection. This has been rigged the entire time. So, to move forward, the Fed is going to protect Ripple through these accounts here, which once again, according to Fidelity, insulates companies like Ripple from several key problems currently existing within the traditional correspondent banking system. So what the Fed is going to do, if they allow this, is allow them to burn who set the fire, while protecting other companies like Ripple. That's what this is all about. My humble opinion, you don't have to agree. I'm not going to argue with you. You have your beliefs, I have mine. You're not going to change mine, and I'm not set out to change yours. Not. I merely present ideas, information. What you do with them is up to you. So, my word, the information's been unbelievable. If you like this type of information, by the way, take those powerful hands. I hit my microphone. I hope you can hear me right now because I'm not recording twice today. I am not. Take those powerful hands of yours, go like this, and hit that like button a few times. Yeah, a few times. And let yourself get a scraggly beard. Why? Because you're a philosopher. Why? Because you're an epistemological researcher. Why? Because you're not bound by worldliness. We are free. We're sovereign beings. We don't need to impress anyone unless you're impressing yourself. Mick, calm down. Mick, don't tell me what to do. Sorry, I had to snap off on you just one time. Yeah. Keeps the energy, keeps it good. You got to have that energy a little bit. Listen to this. You're like, oh, Mick, you got anything else? Yes, I do. Did you make it this far? Only the worthy make it this far. That's why sometimes you see in history, they make it a little difficult before you get to the next level so that only the worthy make it to the top level and receive the top information. And here you are, worthy. Everything I do is for a reason. Look at this, folks. Share this around. Rip it apart. Tell your people. Put it in your own way. You don't need to mention me if you don't need to, if you don't want to. Just this is yours. The single greatest benefit is the removal of the intermediary, the commercial bank. Why? I don't know. What was that, man? What am I doing? It helps them avoid the bank failures or the fallout. The fallout from the bank failures. Making a lot of sense, isn't it? Would we want Ripple involved in that? No. Do we want XRP involved in that? Unless we're benefiting from that, and we will. We don't need any of the negative effects. Let them protect themselves. Ripple and similar companies currently hold their reserves and conduct transactions through commercial banks. You see where this is going? They have to remedy this problem. The commercial banks have a big problem. Several. It looks like at some point in the future, this has been building for years. And yes, they propped them up. Who knows how much longer that's going to last. And some of them will go down. Ripple and other bank coin companies do not need to be involved. But let's get back to this. So they hold their reserves and conduct transactions through commercial banks. If that bank were to face a liquidity crisis, what's happening right now with liquidity? Can you tell me? On every level of the banking system. Can you tell me? Because we've been going over it. There is a liquidity crisis. I mean, it's so bad that a very powerful entity is feeling it. Once more, you see that post? Those posts? Let it open your eyes. Let's keep going. And that's a great thing for bank coin holders. We hold the key, in my humble opinion. I don't know what your opinion is. That's my opinion. I only speak for myself, not financial advice. We hold the key. And I had another paper around here, document from some expert company. I don't know. I have so many tabs open. My apologies. And they were saying something, and they said exactly what I was trying to convey, but they summed it up perfectly about how, these banks are going to need the bridge currency aspect. I say yes. Yes, I hope somebody else finds that and makes a video about it or an article about it. But the bridge currency aspect, they highlighted, the liquidity aspect, they highlighted. And I'm like, yes, this is what I've been talking about. And someone else sees. Anyway, so if they were to face a liquidity crisis or fail, like Silicon Valley Bank in 2023, the company's funds and ability to process payments would be temporarily or permanently frozen. Yeah. I think I speak for many, many people, not everyone, many people. And I say, don't play with my XRP. Don't play with the value of XRP. Keep it safe. Do what you must. So I see exactly where you're going with this specialized type of account. Let's keep going. The company's funds and ability to process payments would be temporarily or permanently frozen. Direct access to the Fed provides an uncorrupted central bank-backed settlement account, effectively immunizing the company from the risk of commercial bank failures. But also there's the great benefit to the Fed. Once more, I said, by cozying up to the Fed is hoping that these powerful DLT companies will connect to their services and help them out. Then once more in the future, there will be massive expansion in those relationships as trust builds, right? Overt trust. I mean, they trust them below the surface, but this is just for the appearance to everyone else in the other banks that are like, wait, we don't want you to use crypto because it's, or work with DLT companies because they're risky, even though our real intention is we don't want you to work with DLT companies because they're replacing us. But we're not going to tell you that. We're just going to say they're risky, as though we can't read between the lines and we're not erudite enough to understand all the different machinations within the minds of those who would see new competition as enemies. But we are. We are erudite, we are perspicacious, and I feel that we have it all figured out. I'm trying to say it in a way that's not arrogant. My father hated arrogance. I don't want to come off like that. I'm 100% humble and try to operate without ego, etc. I merely function to benefit those who are willing to receive knowledge with knowledge. That's it. What they do with it is up to them, right? That's why sometimes I pause and I'm trying to find the right wording. So, I mean, it goes deeper, mitigating, de-risking, reduce transaction costs, etc., which really helps the banks, really helps the Fed. And then there's the whole idea of the conceptualization of global reach as well. You think the Fed is not going to benefit? They're highly siloed. Everything they do, all their partners, all their friends, the banks that are connected to them. I mean, when I say connected, not that the ones that are connected business wise, but they have how do I explain it? Sometimes in business, you have these special relationships. It's not about business. It's not about business. And, two powerful entities will help each other succeed. That makes sense. I like to use the example of, and I'll try to not give too much information out, but I knew a man, he owned a company and his company was very successful. And he had a lot of connections, and it wasn't about business. Whenever anybody who was cool with him needed anything, he would just give it to them. He'll chop that price solo. You might as well not even have. Sometimes he'll give them stuff for free. That's what I'm talking about. I don't know what you call that. It's not really a friendship, but it sort of is a version of a friendship. That's spread out through all of business. I can assure you, whether people like to say it or not, that's there, right? It benefits those who are connected to the Fed in that way. They have the connections for the collection. If you disagree, if you have a different experience in life, so be it. I can only convey to you the information from my experience. That is all. All right. I don't proclaim to have had all experience. No. So now let's go here. So, there's that. I'm going to pause it right there. There's so much other information coming out, folks. Are you seeing this? Let's jump to this. I want to cover this touch on this very lightly here. So this article is titled let me pause. Wait. Where's the actual article title? Bear with me one moment. Oh, here it is. My apologies. I am but a person. My apologies. All right. Sometimes I have to pause. I might make a mistake. I don't want to. So I pause. MasterCard, Ripple, and Gemini explore selling card transactions using XRPL. I think I typed that wrong. I do. But let's read this little synopsis here. MasterCard, Ripple, and Gemini are exploring the use of RLUSD stablecoin on the XRP ledger to settle traditional. That's what it meant. I meant to say settling, not selling. I mistyped that. Settle traditional card transactions on the XRPL. Yeah. Which, once more, if anything is running across the XRPL, XRP is involved. There's no way. It is the bridge currency. It is the liquidity. It's everything that touches the XRPL. According to David Schwartz, look this up, Google search. I'm not just saying this. This is what he said, although I may be paraphrasing. Anything that touches the XRPL touches XRP. All right. It affects XRP. So bring all those transactions to the XRPL. I'm all for it. Anything that makes the XRP price go up, I'm all for it. It says here, or could possibly do such. This pilot aims to use blockchain technology to potentially speed up the settlement process between MasterCard and WebBank. Is that all? Of course, I will believe that's going to expand from there. The issuer of the Gemini credit card, making it faster and more efficient than current methods. The initiative is contingent on regulatory approval. Oh, wow. That's another thing I didn't touch on. Wow. You guys let me forget something major in that first chapter. The opening of the floodgates by the Fed working with Ripple or giving it any type of account. It opens the floodgates to do even more business, to open. And I say that because a lot of traditionalists will still say, well, we're not so sure about working with these DLT companies. They're stalwarts from a very anachronistic mind state. But if the Fed gives the nod, like, hey, they're in the game now, it's time to play. That will bring a lot of stalwarts off of their couches, off of their fake thrones, into the game to play. Right? Okay. All right. So that was an aspect I wanted to cover, but it just completely left my mind because I felt like everything else was so powerful. But let's continue here. It says making it faster and more efficient than current methods, also giving them global reach. All of these things are siloed. It doesn't matter which card company it is. If they're Western based, they're siloed in the East. If they're Eastern based, they're siloed in the West, and that's only going to continue. This is why you have things where, United States and other countries are saying, well, we have a 1-year deal. Are you sure about that? That's funny. Why a 1-year deal? Because you know that this benefits you. Those same entities that are pushing geopolitical tension while they're shaking hands and smiling at each other are the same ones. Pay attention to this. The same ones who are allowing bankcoin companies to proliferate in their financial systems, legacy financial systems, at an alarming rate. Well, I don't say alarming because that sounds negative, right? At a lightning pace. We'll say that. Keep it positive. Lightning pace, right? Because it's all positive in my humble opinion. And they stand to benefit from that. They're the same ones talking about XRP treasuries, Bitcoin reserves, Solana treasuries, and things of that nature. Digital asset stockpiles. They have all these nomenclatures and names that they use for these things. It's ridiculous. See how they try to muddy the waters? It gets confusing. What's the difference between a reserve and a stockpile and a treasury? You're holding it. So for a coin holder, a bank coin holder or a Bitcoin holder, as long as they're holding these things, the nomenclatures really don't matter. We just want them to hold it even for a second, 2 days, 6 months, a year, 5 years. It doesn't make a difference. It's going to affect that price because it's being held, right? All right. So it says the initiative is contingent on regulatory approval and could set a precedent for other card programs seeking to integrate stablecoins. Let me move this off my desk. My apologies, folks. Let me just move that off there. It was sort of in a way restricting where my hand movement was, but I need to oil that thing up and do some cleaning on it and stuff like that. Let's go here. A little bit of Bitcoin news. This article is titled "JP Morgan Bitcoin looks cheap compared to." Didn't I say this the other day? I was saying all that's going to happen as Bitcoin price levitates at these lower, I say lower, you can say lower levels, but just lower in comparison to where it used to be. Not lower as though Bitcoin price is low and the world is on fire. Not in that way, as some article writers are dramatizing or have tried to dramatize, even though you see resilience. But that as it's levitating at these levels, watch for large financial institutions like JP Morgan. They're the ones sticking their head out. How could I know it was going to be them? Who are going to be doing what? Rubbing their hands together and salivating at the mouth because of these prices. It was a setup. They're setting up the small and medium-sized companies or any company that's in opposition to them because it's going to be a war between companies now, just like it was a war between retail investors. This retail investor thinks that they can take the money from these retail investors. I mean, you know how it works. It's the same thing with companies. Apply that same thing. Let's say the retail is the microcosm, and the companies, asset managers and large companies, small and medium-sized businesses, that's the macrocosm of activity. Well, they're getting ready to go to battle. They're going to be trying to take money from each other. They're not worried about retail. But this is a time where, in my humble opinion, once again, not financial advice, just my opinion, I speak for myself. But this is where the time where it's going to be very easy for retail to make some good value off of Bitcoin, as well as bank coins like XRP and Chainlink, Solana, etc. Once those prices start going up, right? You get them at a low because companies are going to be jumping in. There's still such a large percentage of companies not in, but they're claiming they want to get in. Of course, that's not a guarantee. And who's to say we should believe them that they are going to get in, right? They're just saying they want to. We don't have to believe them. I understand that. But we do have to examine what they actually are saying, correct? Right? Okay. I just want to make it clear. I understand all the different viewpoints, etc. I'm trying my best to present a balanced perspective so people don't, because people will really jump on you in the comment section. Like, what about this? I'm like, I understand that. I just don't have enough time to address this and everything else. There's not enough time. Just isn't. Sometimes you don't have enough mind either. You might not remember all of that. But JP Morgan strategists say Bitcoin looks undervalued versus gold. I wouldn't say versus gold. It's undervalued outright. You don't need to compare it to gold. Gold is going to continue to go up, in my humble opinion. You see there's increased financial institution, I'll say that, central bank activity around gold. Just the sentiment, just the ideas they're putting out there. We've had central banks come out and declare they're going to be buying more gold. So I'm not worried about gold, not even a little bit. That's going to increase, in my humble opinion. Bitcoin, we don't need to compare it to gold. It's going to go up as well because large asset managers want it. It's on the chessboard. And medium and small sized businesses are going to want to get in as those prices get a little bit lower. That's the bait. They're fishing. The price manipulation is bait in the water. They're fishing and hoping that they get in. And the large asset managers, based on the knowledge that they have from their massive research teams, massive, financial analyst teams all together, feel like they have the advantage. So they're confident and they're going to take these small businesses' money. In my humble opinion, that's how this is about to go. JP Morgan strategists say Bitcoin now appears undervalued relative to gold, following a steep October sell-off driven by leveraged liquidations and market turmoil. Bitcoin fell more than 20% last month after hitting an all-time high of $126,000. Very nice, but that's nowhere near as high as I believe Bitcoin is going to go. I think it's going to go much further. A drop that JP Morgan's Nikolaos Panagursoglou. Ooh, I think I got that. I flowed with the name and I did the name very well, I believe, attributed to heavy deleveraging in future markets and fallout from $128 million hack of the DeFi platform Balancer. He noted that the ratio of open interest in perpetual futures to Bitcoin's market capitalization has since returned to average levels, suggesting that, quote, excess leverage has largely been cleared. So now that you have that information, what are you going to do with it? I know what I'm going to do with it. So until next time, everybody, let's get to the money.